Welcome to Dysfunctionally Yours, the podcast where we embrace the chaos, laugh through the struggles, and find hope on the other side of trauma. I'm your host, Brittany, and if you've ever felt like your life was a beautifully messy roller coaster of dysfunction, trust me, you're in good company. Here, we'll have real, raw, and sometimes ridiculous conversations about mental health, relationships, and healing, because let's be honest, life isn't always pretty, but that doesn't mean we can't come out of it stronger and maybe even smiling. So grab a cup of coffee or a glass of bubbles, and let's navigate this wild journey together, dysfunctionally, but never alone.
Welcome back, friends. We are back with another episode of Dysfunctionally Yours, and I am your host, Brittany. I am so happy to be here. Just happy to be here. First of all, can I just say I ate a salad today, and I put some avocado in it. The avocado was not ripe at all. In fact, it was hard. It was hard. And I was like, it's going to be fine. You know, I prefer a firm banana over a not firm banana. And so I was like, I'm sure the avocado will be fine. No, it was not. It was terrible in my salad. It had no flavor. I was like, all right, well, we won't do that again. And so I ruined a perfectly good banana or perfectly good avocado. Oh, well, anyways, that is not important. That's just sort of what is on the forefront of my brain in this very moment of time. So with that, I wanted to start with my ache and relief of the week. It has been such an interesting week. And, you know, I'm just going to put it all out there. So with that, my ache of the week is quite literally a physical ache as I tripped and I fell and my face became intimate with the concrete ground in the parking garage. And so I woke up Sunday morning with my face swollen shut. I could not see. I was like, oh my God, I'm blind. I can't see. I was terrified. And then the rest of the week has just been navigating this world with a gigantic black eye. And that has not been fun. It hurts, but you know, we're here. We're going to push through it no matter what. So I did my best with the makeup. To be fair, the before and after pictures are pretty impressive, but I'm just a klutz. I am just a klutz. And, you know, my kids were like, Mom, you probably need to upgrade your smartwatch to get the kind that if you fall down, it alerts people. Since one day you're not going to get up again, because I am forever falling. Like, I fell down the stairs Super Bowl weekend and thought I broke my shoulder blades and was just laying at the bottom of the stairs. It was like, oh my God, I'm paralyzed. I can't move. And my dog was staring at me like I was a crazy person, despite the fact that she pulled me down the stairs, you know, and there have been numerous, you know, crushing lime scooters and all of this. And they are just like, Mom, one day you're not going to get up again. You need to upgrade your watch. So that's a thing. What else? My relief of the week actually is I came across this like a website on, well, like an Instagram page, but it is attached to wildlykind.org. And they have put a phone booth in Portland, Oregon, which shout out to Portland because I actually love it in Portland. But they have put a phone booth there where you can leave anonymous messages just to strangers, right? You pick up the phone and you leave a message. And so they make all of these videos showing all of the kind things that people say. And it's really like a call for kindness. And people just pick up the phone and they say great things and tell their story a little bit, you know, remind people that they're not alone, that it does in fact get better and that they are beautiful and people care about them. I was moved to tears when I saw it. It made me so happy. I was like, I need to figure out how to volunteer for this organization. So that I'm going to attempt to do because just so very cool. Just going around giving kindness to people. You know, I think people need people, I say it all the time, people need people. And, sometimes it's a really simple act and you really never know how your presence in somebody's life is going to impact them, even in the smallest way. Anyways, look it up. If you have Instagram, go to Wildly Kind, look up these videos for all of this phone booth kindness, and it just will really make your day better. I promise you. This week, I had posted on the Dysfunctionally Yours Instagram page that I updated that anonymous form and that I added to it to just say, like, what do you want to hear about? So not just your stories, not just that, but like there's a space on there now that if you have questions about something that I said, you want me to elaborate on something, or you want to hear me talk about something else. Like, I put that there to be able to get your feedback about what you would like to see, right? Because yes, I'm here doing this podcast, but I'm doing this podcast for everyone. I'm doing this podcast because I know that people have questions. I know that mental health is hard. I know that trauma impacts us in really profound ways. And I know that we don't always like to talk about it. So this podcast, as much as it's mine, is also yours. This is a community. And so I updated the form. So something that I got that I figured, you know what, we'll jump into that because I do make shout outs to it constantly. Somebody wrote in and asked, like, I wrote it down. How did you begin your therapeutic journey? And was that hard? Followed up with, what did you do or tell yourself when it was hard? And so I was like, that's a big one. And so I figured I would try and roll some of those things into one. And start there, right? Because my therapeutic journey is long. I have been in therapy in some way, shape, or form my entire life. I have been in therapy since I was a itty bitty little Brittany, and then through my teenage years into my adult life. So there's been a lot of different feelings that have come with that. So I'll take you a little bit on that journey. I was in family therapy and individual therapy way back when I was itty bitty, and I don't know why. I was in therapy at that time. It was probably court ordered, to be totally honest, because the rattlesnake and my dad both really liked to drink and drive and got some DUIs there and had to go through their own stuff. I've also mentioned I was in foster care. And so with that, there comes a lot of therapy that gets ordered to people. And so I don't totally know what brought that on. And you know what? Maybe my parents did really realize that there was a problem, and maybe they just got therapy started because they knew something needed to change. I don't know. So maybe they did it, or maybe the courts ordered it. Who's to say? But I was along for the ride with that one. And at that time, I remember being just afraid of it. I hated going to therapy as a kid. I just hated it and was so fearful of it because it didn't feel like a safe space, and it's supposed to feel like a safe space, but certain things would be said or brought back to my parents, and I would hear about it at home. And so as a little kid, when they're saying things to you like, everything you say in this room is confidential, and then my parents are talking about something that I said in therapy, that doesn't feel safe. That doesn't feel safe at all. Who is lying to me now? And so I remember being afraid of it. And, if I look back on that, I don't necessarily know that the therapist did anything wrong. I don't necessarily want to say that the therapist lied to me, right? They probably did not, right? I've been in enough therapy now that I know that things are really held sacred, and they don't just run out to tell people or to tell parents all of the things that a child says. But if we're doing family therapy and it's already out on the table that this is an abusive relationship, or, they're trying to put it back on my parents, possibly. This is my thought. This is my idea, but I have no idea. I don't know that therapist anymore to be able to go back and be like, do you remember me from, 35 years ago or something like that? And so I genuinely, I don't know, but I would presume that in conversation, things are being brought up. Like, have you thought that these actions possibly make Brittany afraid? And then that going back into the house and then being like, did you tell your therapist that you were afraid of us? Right? I only presume, but what I know is that as a little Brittany going to therapy, I didn't feel safe and I didn't like it at all. And then we just stopped going just one day, which leads me to, that's why I believe that it was probably this court ordered thing that they had to do. And then whenever they got done being in trouble, we just stopped going. And I remember like certain tasks that my rattlesnake was given, that if she was frustrated with me or something like that, she was told to give me a penny, so that she was making this thoughtful gesture to me. And so I remember weird things happening with like getting a penny. And then it also coming back and being like, well, you know, I don't understand why I have to give you money because you're the one misbehaving. And all the while, I'm like, why are you giving me money in the first place? Like, I don't understand this assignment. I don't understand your therapy assignment because I am a child. And so you having these weird like moments of putting it back on me in your weird narcissistic way, like, it was just so confusing to me. What is therapy even? What is happening? Why is it so scary? And why am I still getting the shit beat out of me? I don't understand the assignment here. Or why are you still saying such terrible, mean things to me? Because I think those are the scars that are even harder, was like the verbal and emotional abuse, to be totally honest. So anyways, we just stopped going. If we fast forward a little bit to whenever I was a teenager, then now I'm in therapy. And that would have been whenever I was doing the day treatment that I've talked about. And there was a lot of therapy there. I did feel safer with the therapist there because the therapist there, I was with them all day, every day in this day treatment program. And so I felt like they were more there to support me versus whenever I was little, feeling like they were there for the rattlesnake and my dad. But that is where we are tasked with the assignment of writing each other letters. And I'm realizing like, what? Like why did she get to write that letter to me? Like, that letter was terrible that she wrote to me. So I'm like, I don't have a ton of faith in this at this point. Like, she just gets to say whatever she wants. She just gets to keep on and nobody's holding her accountable. And we're just going to hold me accountable for my bad behavior or my bad attitude or, you know, my not following the rules. Whatever I was doing that they threw me in day treatment for. To this day, I don't know. I always thought it was because I just got mad, like that I had an anger management issue. I have heard the rattlesnake say afterwards that I had made a statement that I wished I was dead, that I would rather be dead than live with them, which yes, I'm 900% positive that I said that. And then that was why they put me in day treatment, which if that is actually the why, it probably would have been really helpful to know that as a kid. That was information I got way after the fact as an adult. But if that was the why, again, gold star moment in that time, that my parents would be like, oh, let's take this statement that she made seriously and get her some help. So anyways, I don't know. I feel like I went to a lot of therapy and didn't really know why. And that's not effective therapy. That's like, what are we hoping to get out of this? Like, therapy is therapist-patient relationship, right? It is the therapist and the Brittany. And that is what a treatment plan is built off of. That is where like the discussions are fueled. And if I, as the Brittany, don't know why I'm here, it probably makes it very challenging to be able to do any kind of meaningful work. Again, assumptions. This is my assumption because this was 30 years ago. So I can only presume, but that's what makes sense in my adult brain today. Anyway, and so once I got done with day treatment, I didn't go to therapy anymore. Like, we were just sort of done. I do recall, like, when I was in day treatment, that was the first time any type of medications were mentioned to my parents. And my parents at that time were absolutely like, no, we're not medicating her because she needs to learn how to cope with her anger and not lash out. So we're not medicating her. And this statement, me hearing these things from a very, very early age, right? I was, 13 or 14 at that time. From a very, very early age, set a long-term mentality for me about medication. So keep that in mind. Anyway, I get out of day treatment. Everything is great. Everything is wonderful. And then I had to do court-ordered therapy after I assaulted the rattlesnake. That was part of my sentence, was that I needed to go to therapy. And at that time, I'm so angry. I am so damn angry about everything. And now I have to go to therapy again. Nobody is holding these people accountable. Like, it's just, you're so angry. And this is my thought process on there. Again, I have a different thought on therapy today, but I do know that that was very much my thought process in those moments at that time. I'm like, why the fuck do I have to do this when I wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for these people? I also had been told from a very early age, probably that first go around with therapy as a little Brittany, that I needed to focus on me. I needed to talk about me and myself in therapy and not talk about my parents, that they had nothing to do with my behaviors or my bad attitude or my disrespect. And so I needed to work on those things. So again, I am being programmed from a very young age to believe that I am not supposed to even talk about my parents and that they don't have any bearing in why I am the way that I am. And so I remember therapists asking questions like, tell me about your family, tell me about your relationship with your mom. And I'm like, that we're not talking about that. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with this. Hello, it has everything to do with this. Like, what? How was I so programmed, right? Kids listen to everything adults say and believe that. And so I wouldn't talk about that. And now I'm just sitting across from a therapist as a very angry 15-year-old Brittany, and I'm refusing to talk. And I tell her, this is a waste of my time. This is a waste of your time. I'm not talking to you. And I would sit there and stare at her, like, for entire sessions. So she ends up signing it off. I don't know what she signed it off, to be fair. At that time, I was just like, cool, she signed me out of therapy, so great, I don't have to go anymore. I am sure she didn't freely sign me out of therapy. I'm sure the response was, will not engage, cannot work with this child. Like, I don't know. Again, not a therapist. I don't know, but I do know that I'm sure the paperwork didn't reflect the success I was feeling in my brain, but nonetheless. So that was sort of that was whenever I was 15, and it was very short-lived. And then I didn't go back to therapy again until I was an adult and had already moved out, which is wild. It's wild if we take into consideration that my first suicide attempt, where I was in the ICU for a while, was also whenever I was 15. How was that not follow-up treatment that was suggested or recommended? And again, maybe it was, but I certainly didn't go, and nobody signed me up for it. And again, I'm just a kid. So what's, like, I fell through the cracks there. Who's to say? I don't even pretend to know the answer to that. So I grow up and I moved to Italy, right? Talked about living in Italy. I talked about how much I was struggling there. And that is where the self-injurious behavior started, was in Italy. That wasn't something that I had done as a teenager. That was definitely something I picked up in my early 20s. And it was so scary to me. Like, I was so afraid that I was doing this. Like, I knew why, but I also was terrified. Like, why? What is wrong with me? And I sat down with a friend that worked in the hospital. I sat down with her and I was like, I don't know what to do. This is so scary. And I don't know how to stop. I don't want to do this. I don't know what's happening to me. And she's like, you should go to talk to a therapist. You should go tell the hospital that you are worried about this. And so I did. I just walked into the emergency room because, I mean, it was all on base, right? So I just walked into the emergency room and I was like, this is what I'm doing and I don't like it and I don't know how to stop and I'm scared. And so they set me up with therapy and I was like, okay, cool. Whatever is going to make my life better, whatever is going to make this stop. But again, I wasn't focused on the right things in this. So I'm going to therapy. I'm telling them what's going on and they're asking, tell me a little bit about your childhood. And I was quick to be like, nope, that has nothing to do with what's happening. I refuse to tell you about my childhood and I need you to tell me how to stop hurting myself. And they were like, I can't tell you to stop hurting yourself. And that in that time, I was like, what the hell is happening here? Why can't anybody help me? Why can't anybody make my life better? Why can't anybody fix me? Right? Like, I really wanted somebody to fix me, and that they had a magic wand and could just like, poof, Brittany's better. That is not the way that works. But that was very much my thought process in that time. And again, at that time, the doctor or therapist, I have no idea. Was I seeing a psychiatrist? Was it a therapist? I don't know who it was, but she offers medication. And again, I was like, no medication. I just need to figure out how to deal with this. Like, I'm not going to numb myself. I'm not going to dope myself up so I don't feel things. All of the, like, I don't know, rumors that you hear about medication or false assumptions, or maybe you knew somebody, right, that they use that, like I was doped up and I was like a zombie and this and that. Like, I don't know. So I heard a lot and knew my rattlesnake thought process on medication and things like that. And so I was like, absolutely not. We are not doing that. And then I did end up, I did have a suicide attempt at that time, but I was going to see this person and kept seeing this person up until the time I left Italy. And then I went some time without a therapist again and proceeded to decline, like just my mental health just rapidly declining. And so lots of self-interest behaviors and lots of, I think this is whenever I was probably like 23-ish or something. And I finally started drinking. That sounded weird the way that I said that. I said that, but like, I didn't drink all this time. This wasn't something that I believed could happen. So anyway, and so I just have a lot that's happening, and I'm just declining rapidly. I end up in Mississippi, and I am still really unable to function, unable to get out of bed, unable to do simple things, right? I was probably sleeping 23 hours a day. I feel like I would be out of bed for an hour a day and it would just deplete everything in my body. I have 2 kids. I have a husband, right? Like I have 100 reasons why I should not be in bed. And I was definitely in bed a lot. The boy's dad had to pick up the brunt of that. He's working all day and then coming home and then taking care of the boys and doing the laundry and cleaning the house and doing literally everything because I won't get out of bed. And that was a hard time. And so at that point, I'm like, I'm going to go talk to somebody. I'm going to go talk to anybody. And so I talked to somebody, and within like a 30 minute conversation, I now have a prescription. I finally have been like, whatever it's going to take, because this is ridiculous. This has been going on a long time. And so I'm given medication, and this does help. This does help. We start going to like couples counseling, really trying to figure some things out. And I don't remember exactly how things went, but I do remember the counselor, she recommended that the boy's dad read a book called, what was that book called? Walking on Eggshells. Is that the name of the book? She recommended, yeah. So stop walking on eggshells, taking your life back when someone you care about has borderline personality disorder. Somewhere in this, I've been given a diagnosis. Somewhere in this, people are starting to recommend reading material to the boy's dad. I'm taking this medication, right? I'm taking this. And, I think that there was a real effort at that point. But again, I just was doing things not because I understood why I was doing them. I just was trying to save my marriage. Like, I wanted to feel better, but I still was not really super open or willing to talk about why I was resentful about my life, why I was sad, why I was depressed, why I was staying in bed all day, where some of those great big feelings were coming from. And obviously they were coming from a different lifetime ago, a different lifetime that I was really trying to run away from. And that did not work. I ended up with another suicide attempt, and I ended up hospitalized for a month. And, that was tricky, but I feel like that was also this very pivotal moment in my life when it came to how I was navigating medication, how I was navigating what I said in therapy. And I was starting to hear what therapists were saying to me to be better, right? And that was where a journey really kind of started of having positive therapy, like therapy that was really working. And so I went to therapy a bit. I remember some profound moments, right? I go to therapy regularly at this point. I have been back in therapy since Chase died. I threw myself back in therapy immediately. Like I had been toying with the idea because like I like therapy and I know there's always room for improvement. But once Chase died, I was like, hell the fuck, like back immediately. Immediate appointments were made to get back in therapy because I knew there was just no way that I was going to be able to get through that on my own and be functional and be okay. It triggered so many things, right? So anyways, I remember talking to a therapist at one point, and this was where it was just so like this profound moment. Because I'm like, I want my marriage back. I want my marriage back. He has now moved on, right? He moved a girl he met online out to my house like several days after I went to the hospital, and she just was there. She was there, and she actually she's still currently their stepmom. So I mean, maybe there was something to it, right? But I was like in the hospital. I'm like, I want my marriage back. I want my marriage back. I will do anything to get my marriage back. And then I end up living in Virginia. And I'm still going. And I was like, I want my marriage back. I wish he would just talk to me. I wish I could just talk to him. I would tell him I'm sorry. And I remember my therapist being like, what do you think his response would be? If you wrote him this letter, or if you told him, I'm so sorry for this and this and this, what do you really believe his response would be? Like, do you really think that he's just gonna water under the bridge and everybody's gonna live happily ever after? Is that what you genuinely deep down believe? And I had to say it out loud. No, I don't. No, I don't believe that he would care. I don't believe that he would care. And I don't believe that it would change the way things are right now. And hearing myself say it out loud helped me realize like, oh, it's time to start moving forward and to let this marriage go. Like, you guys are done and it's time to take care of you, and started doing some meaningful work, right? So I did that for a while and then I stopped. And then later on in life, you know, I got back into it when I was trying to figure out like the rattlesnake situation, just really had no idea and was really having a hard time with her. And I had a therapist at that time. She was amazing and she really helped me do a lot of work to realize, like I've talked about previously, about understanding who somebody actually is instead of who I want them to be. And so I did a lot of work with her surrounding my relationship / expectations with the rattlesnake and how that impacted me and what I was willing to tolerate or not tolerate. And then, so I worked with her for a handful of years, I think until my insurance ran out. And then I didn't have the money to go anymore. And so that was really unfortunate because I liked therapy. But I mean, if you don't have the money to go, you don't have the money to go. And I didn't know how to explore other avenues there. So I didn't go to therapy for a handful of years again. And then, like I said, I started up again after Chase passed away. So I think, you know, in there, I've learned some really big, hard truths. Like I said, like I learned some things about when it was finally time to let go of that marriage. I also learned a lot about the chaos that was inside of me. And I remember being like, I don't like drama, but there's always so much drama. Why do I have all of this drama? And I heard on a podcast actually a handful of weeks ago, but this went with like what I was told then. But what I heard this man on the podcast say was, you can take a woman out of the war, but you can't take the war out of a woman. And I was told that while I was talking about like, I don't like drama, but there's so much drama. I don't like chaos, but I'm always in chaos. And, you know, having a therapist at that time kind of be like, this is where you are comfortable. And when you don't have chaos, it feels like something's wrong. When it's calm, it feels like something's wrong because it's never been calm for you. And you need to learn how to be okay with the calm. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. I am not okay when it's calm. I am not okay when it's quiet. But this was really something that I worked on in therapy a lot too, and was able to be like, oh yeah, I do need to be okay with the quiet. And just because it's quiet, just because there's not chaos, just because there's not conflict doesn't mean that there is a problem. And so really kind of navigating that and learning a lot about myself through that. So I also, when my brother ended up in prison, I wanted to fix it. I'm a fixer. It's what I do. And spent a lot of time in therapy being like, you can't control what you can't control. How do we build these skills around you? How do we build up some better coping skills so that you don't feel this way anymore? And so there have been times where therapy has been pointless in my life because of my approach to it. And then there have been times where I've learned some really hard lessons about myself, about what I'm lacking, about where I could be better. And then, lots of time spent fine-tuning the use of those tools and that awareness to really be able to be like, okay, this is where I can be better. This is how I lash out. This is how I react. This is how certain things impact me. And it's hard fucking work. It's hard fucking work. I would say it a third time, but I think you get it. Like, I don't know. It is hard work and it doesn't always feel good. And like I talked about in a previous episode, so many times we go in and thinking that somebody's just going to like fix us, really not understanding the fact that nobody can fix you. You can fix you. They can help build you and guide you and help you grow, but they can't fix you. You have to put in the work. You have to make the conscientious efforts to be better, and to do better for yourself, to do better for your partner, to do better for your children, to just do better, right? Like not everything is happening to us. We do have control over ourselves and our own lives, but we have to acknowledge that and we have to accept that. And we don't always just get to like brush things off and be like, well, it's fine that I react that way because somebody else did this to me or somebody else said this. And it's like, yeah, maybe there was another party involved in a certain situation, but only you are in control of how you react and respond. And so these are things that I have to just like go into therapy knowing and being prepared for. And there are times I look at my therapist, shout out to fucking Diana because she deals with my crazy ass, and I love her. I love therapy. But like just sometimes I just sit there and I'm like, yeah, I don't like that you said that to me today. We do ourselves a disservice if we go into therapy and we're not honest and we're not 100% transparent, because if we're only giving one version or one side of the story, that's all that a therapist knows. And they can't really help guide you. Again, doesn't mean that they don't know. Like people are observant, people understand, but like you have to put in that effort and you have to be willing to be vulnerable. And I think being vulnerable in that type of setting is probably one of the hardest parts. And it can be embarrassing and it can be just hard. It can be sad. It can be challenging. But I think just do it. Everybody needs therapy. I don't care if you had the most beautiful life. Everybody needs therapy because the world is hard. Society is hard. It's tough out there. And, we don't get to navigate this world today the same way that our parents were able to navigate the world. Things are not the same. Things are different. And so when we're like, oh, but my parents didn't do that, that's fine. That's fine that your parents didn't do that. But like, we have social media, we have the internet, we have people that like know all of our business. We have a different kind of world than our parents did. There are different expectations in families. There are different expectations in careers. There are just different expectations in this world. And so to try and navigate it and look at where and compare yourself to where your parents were at your age, or to compare yourself to where your friends were at your age, it doesn't do you any good. Like you really have to go and be like, this is a relationship with myself that I am trying to build. Will other people benefit from a better version of you? I hope so, right? I hope so. I hope I reflect all of the work that I have done for myself. I hope that I reflect that in my friendships, in my relationships with my children. I hope that. I don't even hope that. I fucking know that. I put in so much work. I know that to be true. But that's secondary. What I know even more than that is that it's a relationship with myself, because I'm the only one that's with myself 24/7. I am the only one that hears the things I say and all the things I don't say. What a blessing there. And, I need to be okay. I need to be able to sit with that person. I need to be able to sit with her when she's doing her best. And I need to be able to sit with her when she's doing her worst and be like, girl, the fuck are you doing? Like, are you proud of yourself right now? If the answer is no, then do better. Like, you can't undo what's been done, but you can do better. And I think that is the goal. So wherever you are in your therapy journey, I fucking applaud you. I acknowledge that it is hard work. I support you continuing to do it even when it gets hard. And even when you're like, this isn't working, keep with it because it is. But possibly, from my own personal opinion, look at how you're approaching it. And if you're approaching therapy with somebody else needs to fix me, it's going to be really unsuccessful. But if you're looking at it that this person is going to help me get to know myself better and help me be better, help teach me so that I can be better, then I think you'll have a lot of success with therapy. And I hope that you do. I hope that you'll stick with it. I will also say there is something to be said about having a good rapport and connection with your therapist and give it some time, right? Like, you're being so vulnerable. These moments are like, you're being so vulnerable in these moments and it's really uncomfortable. And so I think a lot of times we can misplace that discomfort that it's like, I don't like you, versus the fact that it's just an uncomfortable space. And we tend to not like people that we are uncomfortable around, right? But it's very different. And so I encourage people to give it a little bit of time, not a ton of time though, because if it's just not a connection and there's just not a rapport there, it's going to be hard to trust somebody that you're not comfortable with at the end of the day. So it's okay to shop around, and it's okay to have those hard conversations with your therapist too. To be honest with your therapist, to be like, I don't know if this is working. I don't know if I'm comfortable with this. I don't know. And have brave discussions and to be able to figure out what works best for you. Therapy is great. And do that for yourself. I hope that resonated. I hope that my love for therapy and this very long journey, that it wasn't just jumped in and was like, yay, therapy. Woo! It's a journey. It's a process. And I hope that will, help you feel like you're not alone. Like you can have a hard process too. It doesn't necessarily come easy. With that, please like and subscribe wherever you are listening to. We'd love some reviews too. Reviews are fun. You can follow me on the Dysfunctionally Yours podcast Instagram page. There you're also able to find that anonymous form, give feedback, ask questions, follow up on things, or let me know what makes you dysfunctional, and we'll share that on the pod once a month. The video is up on YouTube at Dysfunctionally Yours podcast. With all of that, don't be afraid to be great. Toodles, poodles, bye.